Good morning. You're on Deadline TV with Vidgen. Want to find out my credentials? Go to the webpage, Deadline TV, postmanproductions.wordpress.com, and have all the bits and pieces. So let's go straight into it. I've been doing a series of interrelating videos looking at things like the TPA and the issues of New Zealand sovereignty. I'm going to talk a little bit now about Rocket Lab, Kiwi Innovation or Pentagon Funded super weapons platform. Whoa, that's a big claim, isn't it? Before we go, let's have a quick sidestep. A lot of stuff at the moment about, and coming from people like the Greens, saying, we've got to watch out for those Chinese, you know, they're harassing our academics, and they've even got an intelligence agent that's located within the parliament, and they've been agents of influence. Well, you know, all of that's true, and that is completely correct. We do have to watch China. But, you know, there are plenty of agents of influence. I've just turned around and done 2 documentaries about the TPA corporations. Well, corporations are agents of influence. And yes, China has intelligence agencies. Well, you know, most corporations have what they call a war room or analysts. So they're doing the same thing. So, you know, just pull on your big pants, guys. And everyone needs to probably step away back a wee bit and stop looking at this whole situation as nation-state model and realising that we're living in a new world where there are plenty of actors out there that transfer borders. I like to call them bastards without borders. We've all got different names for them, but that's the one I'm comfortable with. But in this case, the one I'm talking about today is the role of America. Now, right last week, Rocket launched. I don't think it was its first rocket. I think it was its first major payload kit situation, and it went into the sky in New Zealand, gushed, you know, oh my God, it's great, we've got rockets, it's rockets, and you know, and it was there kissing William Shatner on the face, you know, real PR stuff. And I must admit, you know, I've never seen such great PR in the last 2-3 years. They've really got their spin down pat. However, here's a couple of things which our national media have been very reluctant. There have been a few exceptions to the rule. They've forgotten to mention. Number one, when Rocket Lab first started off its trials on Mercury Island, its backers were actually Fay Rich White Investments. Now, for those of you who aren't as old as me, or don't have the memory, Fay Rich White Investments were tied up in a big thing called the Wine Box Inquiry. Basically, they were money laundering. I think it was Tony Wall, Risenball, and Flight of Briley Investments said, you know, when it all boiled down to, we're never quite sure what they were laundering, but they were laundering something. The key thing that we always focused on was the tax evasion, but we do know that they were guilty effectively of money laundering and tax evasion. So these are the kind of guys that introduced Rocket Lab into us. Not to mention the fact that if you ever read my book State Secrets, you will also turn around and see that I write a large chapter there where I tie Fay Rich White into the US intelligence community. The nature of that's quite interesting because basically what it boiled down to was we sent Fay Rich White a series of faxes asking about them connections to a guy called Thomas Weiner, who we believed had very, very dark ties to the CIA. And they said, no, we don't have it. Our witnesses were actually, I think, the Prime Minister of Tonga, but that was notwithstanding, we sent a letter saying, do you know this guy called Thomas Weiner? Now, my book was released in 1999. On the day before it came out, my publisher, State Secrets went to number 2 on the New Zealand bestsellers list, 15,000 copies sold, not one single newspaper review in the entire country, but on the night before it actually came out, we got a phone call saying if the Weiner book comes out, you're all dead. So I find that call quite interesting because there actually only 3 people at that time in the entire country that I'm aware of knew that Thomas Weiner was actually even in my book. One was me because I wrote the book, the other was my publisher because he published my book, and the third party was Fay Rich White Investments because we notified them of that situation. So draw your own conclusions. I'm not making any conclusions there, but I'm saying these are the kind of scumbags that introduced Rocket Lab into us. Then, of course, is the fact that we actually know that Rocket Lab is actually financed by the US Navy. Now, I'm going to make a little point here. We've got Nicky Hager out there. Hager's done lots and lots of great work there. For some reason, Hager seems very, very reluctant to kind of get into the Five Eyes stuff at the moment. He's sort of staying well away from it. He's been very, very silent on it. But that's okay because before Nicky Hager, we had a guy that was equally awesome, and his name was called Owen Welks. And Owen Welks, in the 70s and the 80s, did several cases where he did things like he'd break into Mount John. I mean, how staunch is that? Take photographs, discover that actually the Americans were actually putting in a secret missile defence monitoring room in Mount John, got it closed down, made them say, no, we're not doing defence funding with Canterbury University anymore. Lo and behold, came to university in around about 1980s, found out, oh no, actually they lied, they were doing it again, they got shut down again. So if you go back to look at Owen Wilkes, there's a very, very strong precedent of the US trying to sneak in this kind of research into New Zealand, getting busted for it, and actually being made to pack up and go away because they have actually lied to us. Now, the other aspect of it is that when you actually go to Rocket Lab's own website, and again there's some really good stuff actually out there looking at their defence context, they've got defence contracts up the wazoo. By having this thing here, it is making us a target. And it's more so significantly, if you go jump all the way across to Alaska, and just go Rocket Lab Alaska, it shouldn't be hard to find the sister station. That sister station that exists in Alaska, in 2014 went, the reason why in 2014 turned out that they actually weren't doing civilian research like they told us. They were carrying out weapons research and their weapon exploded. So we know for a fact that the guys at Rocket Lab are dealing with are in the secret weapons trade. So that should be a big worry as well. Then of course you can also have a look at the staff that work for Rocket Lab. Most of these guys actually come out of the Alaska Aerospace program, and if you know anything about what their link is in terms of with missile defence research, it's not just the hardware, it's the people that we're getting tied up with this issue. So we shouldn't. Now, at a guess, what I'm guessing is what's going on is that when I went to university in the 1990s into political science, I was very blessed to see a thing called perestroika and glasnost, which looked like for one little sliver of a moment that human beings were going to be sane and get rid of nuclear weapons. For a long period, when these wonderful treaties went through, which stopped, conventions stopped basically missile armament and the major ones, we lost a word from our vocabulary, mutual assured destruction. The idea is that there's no point nuking the other guys because they've got IBMs and fighting. Well, the problem was, the fallout of perestroika was you saw the rise of what they call the son of Star Wars, or the missile defense system, and we had systems out there which they recognized that they could lock onto these major missile silos. They could literally fry the electronics within these missiles as they came out of the silos, and it rendered basically mutual assured destruction as a fairly obsolete concept. Man being what man does, he responded by creating missiles that were actually faster, smaller and lighter. These could get off the rocket platform much more quicker and get into high orbit where they were basically free before they could be locked on or subject to missile defense weapons programs. The end result was that you would have China, for example, their new, basically IBCM, IBCM 2.0, it does 27,500 Ks, which takes you from Beijing to Washington in 7.5 minutes, which means that when you're in Cheyenne Mountain looking at that dot on the screen going, is that a glitch or the real thing? You've now got the world's got 7 minutes to react to that situation. And of course what's happened is the US has now in turn responded by making even faster missiles. So again, this is what Rocket Lab is actually a big part of. It's about this whole research development to create a new kind of continent-to-continent style of missiles that are much more flexible, that can be moved around, so they're much harder, easier to detect, and they can get off the ground. So this is what we're allowing to actually happen. And of course, the other thing, if you look at the whole situation, let's step back and look at what's going on. 2016, New Zealand stopped being in charge of its own traffic control. That actually went to a US company. That US company is a military industrial complex contract company. So again, we now see that that's another issue of that mission creep of the US extending the here into our territory. In 2012, all our communications from the New Zealand Defence Force dealing with our deployment overseas, that's now been handled by the US as well. So what we're basically losing track of is more and more that US military machine is getting a greater and greater control. Down in Bluff, you have the Arawa tracking station. Again, it's tracking all these new stations, the rocket satellites that Rocket Lab are launching. Well, that again is built by a company that's actually a US military industrial complex. And again, you take New Zealand and you go down to Antarctica, America built a brand new base in 1995 called Scott Amundsen. It's located directly on the South Pole, which is territory claimed by New Zealand, but America has just completely ignored our claims. They've built a 1,600 kilometre highway from that base to the new base. All the systems which are developed at the Scott Amundsen, they run for a system called Marisat GOES. It's a US $50 million satellite relay system which relays it to a lot of the universities and states. Many of the universities are universities which were conducted to conduct military research on our atmosphere by the US in the 70s and 80s in a process which Wilkes documents as a way to camouflage their connections into it. That system is run by what they call SPAWA, that is the Space Warfare Unit of the US Navy. So again, it's in breach of the Antarctic International Treaty, which bans any military operations on the ice, but yet this is allowed to happen again because of this mission creep that's going actually on. We too often look at New Zealand as a little speck at the bottom of the country and we think, oh, we're not important. Actually, we're very, very important because more and more, as space becomes the new frontier for war, the poles, pole to pole, become very, very important in terms of running space warfare. Most satellites orbit around our poles, so if you can control the areas from which they launch, you control the battlefield. So New Zealand as a launch site now becomes significantly strategic. So does Antarctica as in terms of a place as a relay tracking state for these areas. You can actually only get into Antarctica from New Zealand for about a 6-month period. There are about 3 other nations out there, but I think we're the longest one. So again, we're very, very important as a gateway to Antarctica. America's very, very much aware of that. That's why they've stepped up their own presence in Antarctica and through New Zealand at Operation Deep Freeze. The other aspect there, the aspect that's very, very significant to that is submarine warfare. It's not just about what's on the surface or what's actually up there in space, it's about what's underneath there in the water. From New Zealand to Hawaii, you've got what they call the Karametic Trench. This is known in parlance as the submarine highway. So if you want to control the battlefield in the Pacific, you need to control the trench. So again, by having New Zealand controlling that aspect of it, you're controlling the very strategical pivot to the whole archway from basically South America out through to Australia. You're controlling that area of the Pacific. And you've got to remember, by 2020, which is not that far away, over 60% of the US Navy will now be based in the South Pacific. So all these things, and specifically Rocket Lab, are very, very much about that case of America exerting its authority. Now this is the military side of things. We also know about the TPA. The two things are not unrelated. TPA is the financial side of it, but as one of the admirals said, it's very much important to America's dreams of maintaining its superpower status as is Five Eyes. We have become, it's not just that our government has taken us into TPA, they've also taken us down the Five Eyes area. We've spent over $20 billion under John Key's government, which is going to be carried on by the Labour government, in upgrading defence. Most of that will be spent on mass surveillance and satellite warfare, which doesn't benefit New Zealand public national security issues. It actually reinforces what's best for the dominant party of the Five Eyes Treaty, which is the United States. Again, case of example, $2 billion upgrade at Ohakea. This will not only include facilities to host 50 F-16s, which are going to be doing permanent training there on behalf of the Singaporean government, who is yet another Five Eyes member. But we don't have any fighter jets, so we're going to be the only nation in the world that has a foreign air force flying around our space all the time. It's just really crazy stuff. But more importantly, actually F-16s don't worry me too much. It's the little cyber hub which they're also putting in Ohakea. My understanding is that's also going to be staffed by the Singaporean government, a junior Five Eyes member, sometimes referred to as Nine Eyes, a government that has, that is basically a dictatorship, and a government that is making use of information dominance software. This is the information which allows our social media networks not just to be spied on, but then to control the algorithm so that they control public opinion. This is basically what the Singaporeans are going to be running, and in relation to that type of software, the Singaporean government are actually on record as saying they plan to use that kind of software not just to spy on us to stop terrorism, but to quote unquote create a more harmonious society. So we can look at China, and go agents of influence, but we've got to realise that in actual fact they're not agents of influence, and Rocket Lab is very much an example of that. I will come back to that issue, some of the wider issues in a second, but I'll just also highlight another thing here. Rocket Lab's one thing. Okay, we all know about Rocket Lab. And it is a weapons platform, and a very significant weapons platform. We also know about the HARP. Many people said things different about the HARPs. I think, oh, the HARP conspiracy. Well, okay, look, let's put that to the side. What we do know is the US government know that it's used for deep sea submarine communications, and I've just told you about why New Zealand's significant to that. We know it's used for looking for either bunkers, or it can also be used for look for mineral deposits. So it's also very good if you want to find out what's actually happening in this part of the world for that area. The HARP signal translates basically from Fairbanks, Alaska, tying up with a lot of people that now work at Rocket Lab. It goes all the way to Antarctica. The two basically transmitting signals intersect right off the coast of Christchurch, around about between Kaikoura and Chatham Islands. And yes, if you're wondering, all these places I'm talking about, Arawa Bay down in South Island, Rocket Lab, Chatham, Charlie and my locations, these are the places where all the dolphins and whale streamings occur. Every place I turn around and look at, I always find a big, pardon my language, but a big buck off dish. So, I don't believe that the cause of these whale streamings is actually sonar. I think a lot of it's tied into electromagnetic frequencies that these systems use. But that system runs right off the coast of New Zealand. Again, is another part why we're very strategic. And the research for that was conducted at Canterbury University. Hop 1, Hop 2, go and actually have a look online. These are all things I'm stating which are public review information. And it's not the only time. In the 1970s, we were involved in a project down in Blenheim called Project Longbank. We don't really know what Project Longbank was. The only real reference we can to Longbanks that I'm aware of is, again, Owen Wilkes. He writes in this fantastic book, 1973 book. It's called Protest. It's available in the Alexander Library. And he says Longbank was tied up with geo-warfare. Well, we don't really know what that is, other than it's something to do with poking the Earth's core to see if it can cause seismic activity. I will go and talk to you about that subject a lot down the road, but I'm not going to do it today. But yes, it is a real science, and a lot of New Zealand has a big involvement in it. In the 1950s, we were involved in a thing called Project SEAL, which was about creation of a tsunami bomb. That project didn't just, it was during the World War II. The top guy went on to be running Australia's secret nuclear weapons program, Dr. Thomas Leach, Dean of Engineering at Auckland University. That project was considered very, very significant by the United States. They went on to re-evolve that particular research. It was conducted first at the Kennedy Atoll, where they exploded nuclear bombs, but they used the same experiments that applied them to nuclear weapons at the Kennedy Atoll. Another New Zealand scientist, recently referred to in the last satellite that just went up by Rocket Lab, William Pickering, he observed that when you let off nuclear bombs in the upper atmosphere, that they also stimulate the electrons, so then they became very interested. So what I'm basically pointing to kind of get into is that, from World War II, we've been deep down that research weapon hole, and, in the 1980s, we all meant to be about, anti-nukes, no, we're not going to be part of the NSIS umbrella, no to disarmament. Well, what's happened now, boys and girls, is that under the first John Key administration, was the continued escalation of our military budget, which has gone under both governments of both sides of the House, to Jacinda Ardern. We are now actually probably more down the Five Eyes hole than we actually were under before the Long administration. And and I guess finally, supposedly this is all meant to be about stopping China, but it's quite interesting. I look at when they turned around and they had the big APEC meeting, and they flew all the VIPs down to Millbrook to have a golf course. Well, one of the top guys involved in that meeting was a guy called David Mace. He's a director of a company called Bayo Steel, largest conglomerate company in the world. Bayo Steel is actually, it's a US-Chinese company. It doesn't matter who wins the trade war, they win either way. And so to me, to a certain degree, all this Cold War stuff is actually nonsense. It's classic 1984. We have always been at war. The reality is these systems, while yes, they do escalate tension and they do have a spin-off risk of generating real war. What they're really about is controlling the resources of the 1% of the elite of the world, and using them like a mall cop to make sure that they control it, and that we the people don't get any of it. Simple little fact, which I'll just end you with this video. When I left school in 1990, over 90% of the world's wealth was in the hands of 10% of the population. Today, 99% of that wealth is now in the hands of 1%. Militaries aren't designed to actually protect us from bad guys. Militaries are designed to protect leaders from us. And this Rocket Lab is just an extension of it, so don't be fooled. Thank you very much for watching Deadline TV.